In this day and age where film and TV seems intent on lecturing us about one thing or another, it gets kind of sad that they used to just entertain us without bashing us over the head with the message. But every once in a while, Hollywood lets something slip them by that turns out to be rather good. Reacher, well, at least for season 1. We'll have to see about season 2. The Terminal List, House of the Dragon, which I think took everyone by surprise, and in 2019, one of them things was shown on Cinemax in the good old US of A. A show set in a very turbulent time in American history, and is possibly not well known outside of America. A time when the country faced an influx of immigrants coming from China, and the effect this has on the local population of San Francisco, in which this is set. And that show is Warrior. Set in late 1870s San Francisco, it's based on an original concept by the late great Bruce Lee. Set during the Tong Wars of that period, it follows Assam, who has come to America in search of his sister. Pretty simple journey for him so far, except that within a few minutes of landing in America, he fights 3 immigration officers and is sold off to the Hopway, one of the most powerful tongs in Chinatown. It's a show that gives us San Francisco as it was. It gives us the perspective from the Chinese, who outside of the tongs just want a better life. The Hopway is led by Father June, who is the real deal, and we're told he fought in the Opium Wars. His son Young June has ambitions to become leader and constantly bickers and fights with his father. He easily greets Assam as a friend after seeing him fight and quickly comes to see him as a brother. There's also Bolo, who for now is the best fighter that the Hopway has. The police officers who patrol Chinatown, mainly concerning recently promoted Sergeant Bill O'Hara, a Civil War veteran and gambling addict, which doesn't bode well for him from all sides. His partner, Officer Richard Lee, is a southerner from Georgia, and as such he isn't popular with his Irish colleagues, who fought for the Union side. He's naive and new to being a cop, and despite being from the South, isn't racist like his peers. He isn't afraid to use new ideas and techniques to solve crime. He indeed sees himself as a police officer, rather than a street cleaner is how the other officers see their task in patrolling Chinatown. The Irish workers' perspective is led by Dylan Leary, another Civil War veteran who has a deep hatred for the Chinese, who he blames for taking jobs from his people. We see the political side with the mayor as Samuel Blake, who keeps trying to walk a fine line between being anti-Chinese, but not enough that it stops cheap labour for his business friends. His wife Penny has an interesting storyline, as she's in an arranged marriage, and if we're honest, she's only married the mayor to save her father's business. And then we get to Deputy Mayor Buckley, a slimy politician if ever there was one. He's conspiring with Mai Ling to start a gang war with the Hopway. Speaking of Mai Ling, she is the sister whom Assam has come to find, only to discover she is now the wife of Long Zi, who is the head of a rival Tong to the Hopway. To complicate things, she's also sleeping with Lee Yong, who happens to be their best fighter. I'd go so far as to say he's the best fighter in the show. He's played brilliantly by Joe Taslim. Lee Young is a man of few words, and he plays him brilliantly, like I said. Not only is he possibly the best fighter of the 2 seasons, but his acting is well done. He doesn't get a lot to say, and mostly it's his posture or little nods. And I know that sounds crazy, but they're delivered really well. Aside from these, we have Atoy, who is by day the madam of a brothel, but by night she's a sword-wielding vigilante, killing those that threaten Chinatown. There's also Chow, who is the local weapons merchant, who walks a very, very fine line of not being beholden to or having any allegiance for any side. The ride the show takes you on is incredible. Don't be mistaken for thinking there is no heart to the show. Every fight scene has a purpose. and while the faint-hearted may wince at some of the moves, it's not violence for the sake of violence. But when you do get the violence, it's awesome to watch, and some of the fight scenes are amazing. If I was to describe season 1, I'd go so far as to say it's as much as the rise of Mai Ling as it is Assam's story. While he has the martial arts, she has the brains. The first season is very much her rising to power through seduction, murder and politics, both with Buckley and then with the Fung Hai who we're introduced to, another Tong made up of Mongols. This Tong is brutally ruthless and has no respect for the other Tongs or authorities. The first season sees Assam cementing his place in the Hop Way whilst trying to keep his sister safe from his own gang. His story is complicated by him being arrested when he wanders into the white part of town and is arrested unjustly whilst protecting the mayor's wife, Penny. During this arc, we see him accused of the murders Atoy committed, and Larry, who now owns Bill thanks to gambling debts, tells him to put some lads in Assam's cell thinking it will be quick and easy. Which of course it is. For Assam, who beats the crap out of them in a gloriously choreographed fight scene. Once the fight is done, well, after a certain amount of time, Bill returns. Then they exchange words with Bill realising that he can speak English. The arc ends with his sister getting him off for murder by threatening some witnesses. Now this is all in the first 3 episodes. So, pretty fast pace so far. The season moves forward with Mai Ling becoming leader of the Long Z by murdering her husband and pinning it on the Hop Way because they tried to kill her. It was only thanks to Assam they failed. This later turns into a mass brawl between the two Tongs. Also, because of the violence and the bad reputation it leads to Chinatown, a duel is arranged between the two best fighters of the Tongs. And it's a fight to the death. In one corner, Assam, and in the other corner, Li Yong. Now, Assam loses this, and is only saved from death by Bill firing his pistol in the air. Assam is then disowned by the Tong and goes to work in a factory while he serves his self-imposed penance, only rediscovering his confidence when the factory is attacked by an Irish mob and he has his first face-off with Larry. As the first season goes, this is very strong. It's shot beautifully. The choreography is big budget film worthy. The writing is on point. The sets are real. That town hall is a real town hall in South Africa. It's not green screen, which we've got used to, and it's very, very refreshing to see. Going off the interviews at the end of the shows, it's all very much practical. The biggest plus, especially with us living in this crazy timeline, is this show doesn't preach a message. Everybody, and I mean everybody, is bad to some degree. But they are the hero in their own story. The Tongs have vicious gangs who threaten their own kind. The Irish behave despicably, but from their point of view, it's to protect their own. The police are bent and corrupt, as are the politicians. But for politicians, that's part of the course. The show just presents these sides and leaves you to make up your own mind. If season 1 is the rise of Mai Ling, then season 2 is the rise of Assam, albeit in a more hidden way, always talking into young John's ears and getting into his head. We get a few new characters, but Hong is the best and most noteworthy. He and others have been brought across from China as reinforcements for the Hop Way, but he quickly proves himself as a capable fighter, dispatching a group of Fung Hai with ease. His fighting style is different from both Assam and Young Jun, as he uses a chain when he fights, and it makes for some very good scenes going forward. We also learn that he's gay. And that's it. Unlike modern writing, or a lot of modern writing, it's not all he is. It's not his whole being. You know, how gay people generally are and should be written. and he is quickly taken under the wing of Assam and Young Jun. We find out that the Longzi aren't getting molasses from China like the Hopway do, so they're getting richer at their expense. Assam and Young Jun plot and scheme to do their own thing, and they agree to provide protection at the foundry Penny is running so they can hide it. All is going well until the Irish blow it up. With things gone belly up, Assam takes part in a tournament. Think Bloodsport. It's a great episode that sees multiple fighting styles on show. It really is one of the best episodes of both seasons. When they come back, it turns out Father June knows what's been going on and is not too happy about it, ordering their deaths, which of course isn't carried out. Instead, Assam hands over the cash that he won at the tournament as a way of passing it off, saying we've not fiddled the books or took any money for ourselves, it's all here. Instead, Young Jun takes the mantle of leader off his father, and he's now leader of the Tong, though perhaps it's Assam who's in charge instead. Whilst this is going on, we have other subplots. Bill is forced to work for the Fung Hai due to his, wouldn't you know, gambling addiction. He tries to back out, but they attack his home, incensing the police force who want retribution. However, Chow has roped Lee Young into a conspiracy and goes to Bill with a plan to set up the Fung Hai for Atoy's vigilante murders. This culminates in a long-awaited showdown between Lee Young and Zing, who have a great dislike for one another. And once again, we get a great fight scene between them both, and Zing is arrested. Bill is a happy chappy and the hero. But as this happens, the mayor is killed by Jacob, Penny's butler, who killed him while trying to protect her from the mayor who attacked her. This leads to a massive police search across Chinatown, with Jacob being found after Buckley puts pressure on Mai Ling and she pressures Chow, who has been hiding him. Once the police have him, an Irish mob gets him from them and they hang him. This is a very, very difficult scene to watch. It is truly, awful. After they've hung him, they go rampaging through Chinatown. Now this is an epic, spectacular piece of cinematography, worthy of any film. A scene that has been 2 seasons in the making. The Irish are rampaging when Young Jun, Hong and Assam see what's happening. Young Jun gets the lads to defend Chinatown when Lee Young and his mob turn up, and he just nods to Assam. And it's silly but it's wonderfully done. And the 2 Tongs join forces to smash the Irish. I'm not going to lie, I love watching this scene. I glee with joy at it. It's a masterpiece of television that is visually stunning. You feel the tension, the terror that the ordinary Chinese citizen is feeling. The episode ends with Assam and some others collecting Jacob's body. The final episode of the season is the aftermath of the riot. Assam is painted on the wall due to his heroics, and Mai Ling lets the cat out of the bag and tells Young Jun who her brother actually is. This is a great scene in her and Assam's dynamic, as she tries to build distrust between the 2 friends. We finally get the payoff of Assam fighting Leary one-on-one, a clash that has been building since the end of last season. And boy is it worth the wait. 2 titans finally facing off. And it starts off with a nice little scene with the 2 of them having a drink and almost a civil conversation. But we're here for the fighting after all, and it gives it us in violent glory. Meanwhile, Mai Ling has a picture of Buckley from the Civil War, but it turns out he was a Confederate soldier, so she uses this as leverage on him. The episode ends with Penny in an asylum, after she visits Buckley, who stabs himself in the shoulder and pins it on her. No pun intended. The show ends you leaving wanting more. It's so good. At its heart, and I don't want to sound like Dominic Toretto, but at its heart it's about family. How complicated they can be, and how even though you can hate them, you still love them. Assam and Mai Ling both save each other at times in season 1, right up until the duel where he's about to die. And going forward, she feels guilty for it. There's the growing bond between Assam and Young June, right up until Mai Ling tries to tear it apart. I've said in the past this show is vastly underrated, and it went by largely unnoticed until it got moved to HBO Max and found its place. Give it a go, especially now as season 3 is out. You won't regret it. That's all I've got for now. Ta-da!